Good afternoon and ni hao to everybody. Thank you. Yeah, first of all, thank you very much to all of you for coming to attending our seminar. And another few words to thank you, our friend Kai and Rocky, the Linden team, for inviting us and giving us the chance to speak to you. And also I may say thank you very much to the Research and Development Institute and Professor Dr. Huang to give us the chance to be here. As my speech is in English, I will try to speak slowly and clearly so everybody can follow up. If I'm too fast, if I'm not understandable, just don't be afraid, raise your hands, stop me, interrupt me. So then I will repeat, or we will ask our friend Kai for translation. So at the beginning, what will we do? See if I can hold the microphone all over the time. So a few words about the company. Okay, so it's better, I think I have to hold it closer. So Schröder, it's the company I'm working for, and Schröder is a member of the Weber Group. So both are German companies. And first of all, Kai did the introduction of me and the company and what we are doing. So I'm a master butcher. I'm in the business since over 48 years, starting with an apprenticeship of 3 years, learning everything from slaughtering, deboning and making sausage. And I'm in the business to selling meat machinery worldwide. I'm now since 28 years traveling more or less all over the world. I have, I don't know, visited close to 50 different countries in the meantime. The company itself, a little bit about history. So, as you can see, we are passing 50 years in 2016, and the founder, you see the small picture, Mr. Helmut Schröder, he finally handed over to his family, and as you see, after the 50 years celebration in 2016, in 2017 the family decided to sell the whole enterprise to company Weber. And you see on the map, Weber has different places of manufacturing machines. The headquarters is north of Frankfurt, in this little town of Breitbach. Then a second place is north of Frankfurt, and another one of Weber is in south of Germany, in Bavaria, where they all on these places they produce slicers, and in the area north of Berlin they produce dewinders, membrane skinners, and also tools for the slicers. Schröder is located in the northwestern part of Germany, and the company is focused on everything when it comes to marination. That means injection and massaging of meat products. So the range of products starts from brine making systems, injectors, we call it mechanical treatment, different types of tenderizers, then we have massagers, and of course we have complete processing lines. So this is the core business Schröder is working on. And back why we are here. Today it's a seminar about marination and marination technology. The focus will be information on functional ingredients, on meat technology and marination technology, as well as needed equipment and benefits of different applications. Important to mention right from the beginning, a seminar, even it lasts more than 1 hour, we can only be on the surface of everything, so we cannot go very deep in details. Yeah. So, giving you the information, mainly it is, I say, around meat and marination technology. Some of the information I will give you will be still known facts, so not everything might be new, but something is just to remind you, and something will be certainly new for some of you. So we cannot touch all the aspect, but we will touch what is needed to reach a safe and stable product quality. And then, even I don't understand Chinese, but I got it from Kai. He has been already talking about what we call HVB, high viscous brine technology, or what is also known in the meat industry as meat in meat technology. And also we have something to introduce, or to let you know at least, what we call Vismax, what is our traceability or data management system. So, coming back to the topic marination, yeah, and what does it mean? A successful marination is not just adding water. So, if you read this sentence, yeah, all these are correct: equipment, technology, discipline, marination habits, quality assurance program, along with thorough company commitment, will guarantee and maintains the desired results and ultimate success. What does it mean? Marination you can do in different ways, and you can do like a professional, or you can do like a small butchery. And this makes, the end of the day, makes a difference. Yeah? Because only if you really have the right tools, then you will reach what is necessary for your products. So we will talk about properties of the marinade, we will talk about functional ingredients, raw material, technologies and fields of application, and finally we are coming to equipment. Please note, we can only get a little bit of the different aspects, not be going really in details, but we will go ahead. Why to use marination? So, as said before, it is not just a way to lower costs by adding water. With today's technology, you can increase really quality and value of meat. Taste, flavor, texture, appearance, yeah, all these benefits, yeah, that our customers expecting really from a value-added product, and a proper marination will really bring these techniques to promote quicker cooking times, better cooking yields, longer shelf life, reduction of purchase packaging, and all these leads finally to return customers. And if we say return customers, then that means if a customer returns, then you will benefit finally from your technology, because the customer finally pays for your product. And only if the customer pays for your product, means if he buys, then you have really success. So, again, just adding water is not marination. Yeah? It is the process which marinade solution is applied to a food substrate. In our case, it's meat we talk about. So, the means to enhance raw and finished product performance by leveraging today's rapidly expanding ingredients and process technology could be a definition for marination. Repeating this: raw material, finished product. You will always add ingredients Why? To increase taste, to increase texture, to increase yield, yeah, and to diversify from others. And what is important on it, whatever you do it like a disciplined science, and using the correct technology for the marination, for the equipment, and for your quality assurance program. Stepping on site, doing it today in a little bit different way, like you have done the day before, and tomorrow you will do it again a little bit different because of different material what you have. Maybe raw material is not in the same quality. Maybe another supplier of ingredients will be with cheaper ingredients. All these things will lead finally, you know it, to different final products. And this is something what customers will not accept. Customers are expecting a product quality, even if it is not the highest, but they expect the quality what will be all over the year the same. So your task is it to establish a repeatable system for your marination process. So again the question, what is marinade? Yeah? It is a so-called pickling solution, or we say in our case it's a brine. And what is a brine? A brine or a solution is this what contains formulated functional ingredients. And the solution can be either a suspension or an emulsion. This is either water-based or oil-based. So, formulated functional ingredients. And this is the main focus for today, for the marination, functionality of the ingredients. And sometimes, what I have seen, so people believe more helps more. And here is something what I would give you right from the beginning as a hint. Sometimes less is more. I have seen packages in some companies with a list of 15 to 20 different ingredients in one bag as a ready-to-mix solution. And even if you go for a high pickup on a cooked product, I can tell you this does not work in all the cases. Please have in mind that sometimes some components which you are mixed together, if you have single components, they are working perfectly. But if you mix different components together, so you may have a counter reaction, and then one believes, okay, if I add a third or fourth component to it, then it might become better. No, it doesn't. I have to add on this point, I'm not the expert in all functional ingredients, but I learned in the meantime a lot when it comes how to react ingredients and what you can do. I learned a lot from the guys who are supplying and developing functional additives and functional ingredients. Yeah. So please have in mind, not the number of ingredients is important, the functionality of the ingredients and the way how components are working together. This is the important thing, and in some cases it might be helpful to talk to the right person who supply you with the ingredients.
这段老话刚才有说比较重要，所以我大概简单翻译一下，就是当我们的产品在开发的过程中，我们通常会例如说，我一开始加了10样的添加物，然后所以注射量例如说30-40%。然后我想要达到70%注射量的时候，我又加了很多其他的含水剂啊、保水剂等等的，想要去再把它提升。可是我后面加的这一些添加物，可能跟之前加的添加物是相冲突的，所以效果可能不是那么好。所以在他们欧洲现在比较常见的是，他们的讲法是说，我添加物加的越少，甚至说 我越是用天然的东西，所谓 clean label 等等的东西去加，我减少我添加，我反而达成我是高品质的产品，终端产品，而不是说一味的去追求我的注射量、注射率，因为我有可能说我打进去，我的注射率达到70%、80%，但是我后段蒸煮之后去切片之后，那些水都流掉了，这是常常发生的。所以注射率不是注射率，还有注射量，还有添加物的多寡，不再是越多越好，而是就是要达到我们要的function，我们的功能为主。那在去年，我跟这个老外有去那个菲律宾的快乐峰，也有做类似注射鸡翅的。我们也是把它本来大概是做30几%的注射率，我们把它改成说它只注25%的注射率，然后它的那个添加物本来20-30样，但是我们把它改成只有10几样。那结果反而是说，我们这25%的注射率的鸡翅，它是真的在烧烤啊之后还维持在里面维持它的那个水的，就是维持它的保水性的，然后顾客也比较可以接受。所以，当我们以往的经验都是说，顾客啊或是一些食品厂的研发人员都会问说，我要怎么样达到我注射率增加？其实像现在老外他比较讲究，反而是说我注的这些东西是 sliceable 的嘛，这个单词它后面也会出现，就是说我注完这些东西它是可以切片的嘛，我切片之后这个水会不会就流掉？或是我后面我在做 processing， 我后面在做任何加工，这些水是不是就流掉？对 ，OK。
Thank you. So back to our brine, to our solution. Suspension or emulsion. The main difference, if you have a suspension, you may have some ingredients like starches, yeah, which are mixed in the suspension, but they are falling out if it stands. So you need some other ingredients to keep them floating in the brine, or you need a special device to keep the brine always moving to avoid settling down of ingredients. Because if the ingredients are sitting on the bottom of a bin or of a brine tank, they are not coming to your product. Very important to have this in mind. And emulsion is something where you mix components like oil or fat and water together, what is normally not, let's say, a stable system. If you give them a rest, if you don't move it, if you don't steer it, so emulsion will separate water and oil. So this is the main difference, what we say. And then we have solutions or emulsions which are based mainly on water or based mainly on oil for different applications. So if we have a water-based brine, this could be something for lower or for higher injection. A lower amount of brine can be added even for marination in tumblers or massagers. Just allow the meat to pick up the water, to pick up the brine. And mainly this lower, or let's say using only tumblers, massagers, is mainly for fresh meat products or for grinded meat products. The oil-based marination, where you have a number, or let's say a certain amount of spices and herbs mixed in oil, this is very often used for single steaks, for fresh meat products, which then are used for barbecue. And then we have the number 3, what I added here, brines with meat or fat added, which requires special technology. Very often we have meat in meat brines or brines mixed with trimmings for higher yield products, or we have something where we have the fat added, so this is for beef marbling. Both, as I said, with special technologies. So what's the task of a marination? Actually to transfer the ingredients into a muscle. So, and therefore the water, you may consider the water is your transport medium. This is my expression. Then of course adding value, yeah. So increasing the taste, increasing flavor, juiciness, covering the outside of a product, or increasing even the shelf life or increasing yield. So, when we have a brine, say the mixture of waters, salt and various additives, this is really where you start to begin to influence your final product. And it's very important to do this in a standardized process. The additives allow a wide variety of factors to be influenced in the end product. So you could influence, of course, the flavor and the taste. You could influence the color. You could influence juiciness, yield, and profit or losses. And standardization of the process, this is the key factor. And all this, all these factors here, these influences, this comes mainly from the so-called functional ingredients. And focus and consistently on functional ingredients or primarily functional ingredients. This is water, salt, phosphate, shelf life extenders, and flavorings. And one of the most underestimated ingredient in a product, you pay definitely, or most cases you will pay the fewest attention. What is it? Water. Water is one of the most underestimated ingredients in a brine. And if you don't care about this, then maybe you are searching for solutions with chemical additives, but if you check your water, maybe you can solve a lot of problems. Focus on purity, specifically hardness, taste, and micro. What is the hardness of the water? What does the water taste like? Does the plant have all the same, all the time, the same source of water all over the year? And how does the source of the water vary throughout the year? So make sure the quality of your water is a very consistent part in your marination process. Why I mention this? Some of you will have discovered foaming of brine. And foaming of a brine has certainly something to do with the ingredients which you are using. But foaming of the brine has in some cases also something to do with the water hardness. Of course, ingredients influence in this, but if you check the water hardness and you find out what happens there, then maybe you can lower the amount of ingredients or adjust the amount of ingredients or the functionality of the ingredients. And you can solve some problems which are not relating to the ingredients itself, which are more related on the water. If you would add something, then just stop me again.
这一段我简单的翻译一下，就是说，我们台湾或是应该是说我们亚洲这边的注射按摩腌制液，大部分都是水性的。他刚才前面有讲，注射按摩腌制液有分几个 base 嘛，一个是 water， 就是这种水性的，以水为主要基底的；那一个是以油为主要基底，一个是以 fat 脂肪为主要基底的。fat 脂肪为主要基底，就是例如说日本在做和牛那一种的。 就是人工的和牛，那种是以 fat 为基底，那个台湾比较少见。那还有另外一种油的，以油为基底的，它他们是做 barbecue， 那这种加工的食品。那在台湾的话，比较常见的可能就没有再特别注射进去，而是用滚头按摩的方式，让外面这一层油啊、辣味啊赶上去。 那台湾比较常见的是这种水性的。那这种水性的腌制液里面，最常被忽略的就是我们的水质。我们最近有一个 case， 就是说，我们有一个顾客，他本来在台中太平这边做的，然后后来他在福州也有工厂。那他福州有工厂之后，他用的是台湾这边的注射液配方，所以去之后，他们现场跟我们讲说，怎么它的那个注射率啊，跟出来的口感跟本来不一样。那我们后来去查，就是因为大陆的工业区大部分水质是比较硬的。那像现在老外讲的这个是我们讲义上面第16页，我们有时候会对不太起来老外讲的是哪一页，是因为他这2天又在加很多东西进去啊，所以他这个包装看起来会比我们手上拿到那份讲义多一点。可是这一份完整的包装，我们今天事后也会 email 给大家。那所以大家可以看一下16页的东西，大家继续讲，就是在不同的水质上面，我们的那个什么添加物或是我们的腌制要做怎么调整。
Okay, back to the water. So remember, it says water is the #1 added ingredient to food. Particularly companies who produce soda, bottled water, soups, they require a consistent flavor and they treat water really as an ingredient, and thus they specify and standardize their water. And this will definitely help you as well. Meat processors who have standardized water have achieved increased yield and further process and improved product consistency all over. So again, water is the greatest part in your formulation, and this is actually the #1 ingredient in your brine. So don't forget, water, if you add something, water is always, one of my colleagues, former colleagues, used the expression, water is the cheapest meat. I would not say you should add more water, but you should have in mind, it is really the cheapest ingredients you have, but this does not mean you should pay attention to it. You should pay a lot of attention to your water quality. Don't underestimate these qualities. Okay, water hardness classification, I picked up this from European information. So what is soft water? It's something what has minerals, yeah, like calcium concentrates and this with 0 to 60 parts per million. And moderately hard water, it's between 60 and 120, and hard or very hard water is over 180 parts per million. So some of you are aware of what does it mean when they wash clothes. So if one has an area where you have very hard water with a lot of calcium chart in there, so they need always a higher concentration of cleaning agents when they're washing clothes. And it has been very common in earlier years, back in the 80s, that phosphate has been used in cleaning agents for washing clothes. And if we had an area where you had harder water, you need more phosphate. Right? So I would not say you have hard water, you need more phosphate for your meat product. It is just to say, pay attention to this fact. Yeah? So temporary hardness is attributed to the calcium magnesium bicarbonates, which are decomposed, that means falling out when heating in insoluble carbonates or scale. So some of you know who has hard water, they will see even on the tap, yeah, after a while they are coming up some white, what is sharp. So if you have water water with a hardness over 60 parts per million, then this should be treated with softening agents. Here it says using citrate. Be careful with it. There is a possibility to use some citrate as a softener for the water, but if you have too much citrate in it, it might even end up in a metallic taste in final products. So not everything is then a good solution. Citrate, it says it's an excellent cheerleader. That means complex builder, neutralizing water, and therefore increasing functionality and solubility of phosphate. Yes, in a certain way it does, but again, be careful testing it, and don't use too much. Going further with the ingredients or functional ingredients. Now are these parts, or this what is mentioned now, are what you certainly consider as ingredients. So here it says number one, salt. Very often salt is just considered to give taste. But like water, when I say water is an ingredient for your brine, so when we're talking about functional ingredients, salt is the number one functional ingredients in your solution. Because if you would extract proteins from a meat product, which is considered to be a cooked ham or massaged taco product, where you will get protein, where you need the protein extraction, then you need salt. Salt is the number one ingredient which reaches the actin-myosin complex in the fibers to extract the protein, forcing the protein to swell and to absorb moisture. And what I know from my experience traveling around in Asia, very often there is the request, oh, not too much salt. We don't like to have the salt taste. And even in Europe and in America, at the moment there is a request to come lower with the salt and with the sodium content in meat products. Actually, not only meat products, in many other products as well. Yes, everybody who is working in the food business knows there is many times we hear, okay, the salt intake for humans, it's too high, we all take too much salt, this creates high blood pressure, it's not healthy, and so on. And everybody thinks, okay, we have to lower the salt content. If you do it, yes, okay, but again, if you lower the salt content, you are lowering functionality. Have in mind, salt is your number one functional ingredients if you talk about processed meat products. And for a ham product, I can give you a number and say if you go below 1.6% of salt in your injected or marinated product, then you will have trouble and you need other components to equalize this low salt content, because the salt content is too low. If you go to 1.5, 1.4% in injected products, and you will have a cooked product, you are losing on functionality, you are losing on water binding, you are losing on stability, you are losing on yield. So have in mind, salt is your number one ingredient. The second is the nitrate, which is in Asia very often as a free salt, as a reddening salt to add. It is important for shelf life. It is important also for the good color, for a stable color. We in Europe, we we are not allowed to use nitrate as a single component. It is always mixed with a white salt, and the concentration in the white salt ranks from 0.6 to 0.9%. So it's quite low. Why I mention this? So it is a good preservative, it is a good reddening agent, but you all should know, you're working in the food business, it is also toxic. So if you do overdosing, yeah, you can kill one. Yeah? So be careful with this additive. So then we have phosphate. Phosphate is another functional ingredient which actually works together with salt to improve the ionic strength of the salt components and to increase the swelling of the meat proteins. Actually, it's activating, even in combination with salt, even more protein faster, and you will get a better water binding, better water holding, finally better yield on cooking and slicing when using phosphate on salt in combination. Also here on the market, more and more you will read about articles about phosphate replacers. Yes, you may do, but again, don't underestimate the functionality of phosphate. Very often, phosphate replacers like citrate, lactate, acetate are mentioned, but these ones do not have the strength and the functionality like a phosphate. Then we have another group, so-called hydrocolloids. And hydrocolloids are everything what helps to bind water in what way ever. This could be just thickener, it could be gel builder, this could be fibers. Yeah. Some they are just making a viscous brine, some are reacting on cold temperatures, some are reacting on higher temperatures, on cooking temperatures, some are just stabilizing brines. And then we have, of course, the other reddening agents, ascorbate, ascorbic acid. Yeah? So coming back to the salt, what I already mentioned, yeah, salt is increasing the ionic strength, yeah? Stronger dissolution of the proteins, stable matrix structure, improved extramuscular, intramuscular slice cohesion, swelling capacity, capillary extension under water immobilization, taste, of course, don't underestimate taste of salt. It has actually no direct hurdles against microorganisms, only indirect through sinking the water active value, the AW value in some of the products. Yeah? And the nitrate, this has this bacteriostatic effect, the reddening effect. Of course, it gives the typical nitrate flavor to some of the products. Yeah? And nitrate temperature is always very cold and production time very short, therefore insufficient for color and high residual nitrate content. So nitrate has to be broken down during the process, you know, to nitrate. Yeah? The salt components as functional ingredients. And again, so one thing salt does, it conveys flavor, it gives flavor to your marinades and finally to your product. So the dissociated sodium ion is active component which imports the salt flavor, and these sodium ions can come from phosphate salt or organic acids. What is important, I mentioned at the beginning, keep your salt content as high as possible or necessary. So don't go too low. If the salt taste is too intensive, sugar is one of the things where it can cover, as we say, the tip of the salt taste. Yeah? If something is too salty, you really can work with some sugar against it. But if you do this, you have the functionality of the salt. Another thing is thinking about the formulation of your product. Yeah? If it contains more fat, yeah, then fat is also coating or covering the taste buds in your mouth, yeah, and decreases the perception, the feeling of saltiness. If we're talking about the salt replacers like potassium, yeah, so these ions do not promote water binding as good as the sodium ions from salt. Yeah. So it is a replacer, but only limited in application. If you add too much potassium to your product, also it will have a negative flavor effect. Sodium levels in marinated product must be adequate to promote water binding. What I said before, if you have to know it doesn't work, and to give you a good and adequate saltiness sensory response, so the good feeling when you taste something. Minimum amount of salt in the water protein system, that means what I said before, in hemp products that should be cooked and should end with good yield. Minimum salt and to have a full functionality is 1.5, and I say even 1.5%, it's too low. Go for 1.6, and then you can be sure it will work. The second group, the phosphates. We have on one hand the monophosphate and phosphate replacers like acetate, lactate, etc. Yeah? These act similarly to common salt, as I said, okay, they are improving the water binding and therefore swelling the microfibers and activating the actin myosin components in the meat. It slightly increases the pH value. Sometimes could have a negative effect on coloration. But important is to know actate and lactate or even citrate, they have bacteriostatic action, but actate and lactate, they actually draw water, and this can turn in negative effects, so you need then additional component like carotene to compensate this, because it's taking water. So then we have the second, and what is more common and interesting in meat products, this is the D-phosphate. D-phosphate has a greater increase of ionic strength compared to the monophosphate and the improved binding of water. And the 3 or polyphosphates, they are only in solution, available in solution with D-phosphates, and they are responsible for maximum yields and the greatest protein activation. Important is to know, you can work, of course, with single components, but the important thing is mainly the combination of D and 3-phosphate gives you the right functionality. D-phosphate actually works faster, so you have immediately some reaction on it. So, and that fits to the so-called actin myosin chain to influence right from the beginning and very fast the swelling of the proteins. That means the sodium can enter, dissolve and split the myosin filaments, in resulting the short-strand meal products, yeah, and working on the water retention. It says also D-phosphate are mainly working on short and cold process times. So and here comes when I say, okay, the best thing is to have a component mixed from D and triphosphate, because the triphosphate must be break down to D-phosphate level before they are functional. And that means you have something like a buffer. So if you use the D-phosphate in combination with triphosphate and you do a hemp product, then you have immediately reaction right from the beginning of your massaging or tumbling process. But as some tumbling processes are lasting over 10, 12, our French customers, they do 20 hours and more, so you have very long process times. The D-phosphate is not working anymore on the end of the stage. So what some customers do, they use even on the end of such a process to add some additional phosphate into the massager or the tumbler. So adding a little bit, a solution or a remaining brine for the last 30 minutes of tumbling to get the surface contact of the meat products very active again before they start stuffing or molding the product. Using 3,4-D-phosphates in combination with the D-phosphates gives you a longer reaction time. So that means you overcome this time of the process. Yeah? Even if you have a very long tumbling or massaging process, you still have activity. Yeah? And this is often used. It is actually, it's a must, and if you buy some components which are already mixed, it will be definitely used in it. Yeah. So, and then we have another, just to mention this, hexametaphosphate, very long chain with 6 molecule arms. Yeah. This doesn't give resolution of rigor mortis, it does not have the function we really need in our meat process, so stay concentrated on the D and 3-phosphate solution, which are most common. Pay attention to it. What is the pH level, because sometimes pH levels are quite high in variation from supplier to supplier, and the pH level of your phosphate, of your solution, is one of the important facts also for results. Kai, if you would like to say something, just interrupting. Okay, good, go ahead. So, in summary, D and 4-D-phosphate combinations manipulate properly the benefit of most products, thus require longer process times, cook times, and the benefits of correctly used phosphates are the retention of water, higher yields, binding, quality, higher protein solubility, tender product, long shelf life, antioxidant properties. And it's important that the liquid phosphate can be used as an effective bind insurance. And what is important for you when you start mixing any kind of solution, any kind of brine, yeah? If you put in a phosphate, phosphate goes in solution on higher temperatures. If you pre-chill your water, if you put in ice at the beginning of your water, and then you will add phosphate, very difficult to get this in solution. Use tap water and put in phosphate first, and then stir it quite a longer time. Give the phosphate time really to go in solution. Yeah? It goes better in solution on higher water temperatures, and it needs stirring effect. Yeah? And okay, another thing, again, what we say, so phosphate in combination with the water, yeah? Some will have seen that the brine is foaming Yeah? So foaming, as I said before, could be related to the water hardness. So a soft water starts relatively easily to build up foam, and you need less of phosphate. Foam in the water could also be created, very often is in combination with protein. So protein which you add to your formulation, or protein which comes from the meat which is passing just the injector, because you always have some meat juice dropping, and the meat juice contains, even it is very small, but it contains some protein. So this protein goes back in the brine tank on side of the injector and in circulation. So you have the circulation, that means movement. You have phosphate in. Yeah? So all this leads them to foaming. Yeah? So to avoid foaming, yeah, or very heavy foaming, very often foaming agents are used. Also here, some of the customers say, we don't like to have this, because under the aspect of clean labeling, very often one is trying to come down with the amount of ingredients labeled. So then they say, okay, foaming agent, no, we don't like this, we cannot use it, our customers, they don't accept this. A very simple trick to avoid or to stop foaming: use a couple drops of vegetable oil to add to a brine. Just a couple drops, dry, be careful, it changes the brine quite a lot. Yeah? Use a couple drops of vegetable oil and you can overcome excessive foaming. But test it, careful. Hydrocolloids. This is another very, very wide field where we have so many possibilities to use in brines. And again, under this aspect of clean labeling, many companies say, okay, we won't use gums, we won't use starches, yeah, we won't use carotenoids, but what to do? Yeah? So sometimes it's necessary to have something in the brine to get a certain viscosity, because particularly if you go for higher injection rates, if you just have salt and water, then the brine does not really stay in the product. So you need something to give the brine, that we call it a structure. And all of this, they work on viscosity of the brine. Some of this will react even further during the process. Yeah? You have carochates, and if you look to carochates, you have at least 3 basics. So it's the so-called lambda, iota, and kappa carotene, which are the most common. So the lambda carotene is not useful at all in our field for the meat products. It's useful for dairy products. Most of the cases you will have a combination of kappa and iota carotene. And here it is a question, how good is the carotene you have? Is it a semi-refined carotene, or is it a really pure carotene? 2 years back I had a discussion with a gentleman who's supplying the carochates to other suppliers and also to final customers, and he said, yes, sometimes it's stupid. Customers are only looking for the price. Even if the price, we say, okay, compare to a low-cost product, our price is higher, but the dosage is smaller. Yeah? So they sometimes say, no, we would like to have the cheaper product. Yeah? So please have in mind and make the calculation. What is the cost for your final product? Don't be focused on the buying price. Be focused on the functionality of the product you buy. And a pure carotene can give you a much better effect. You don't pay for the fillers in a product, you pay for the functionality. And then calculate how much you need per kilo meat, and figure out if you save or not. Certainly you will save some money. Starches is another story. There are so many starches from so many sources. Yeah? So you can have the potato starch, you can have the corn starch, you can have modified starches. Yeah? Also here, I had 2 years back a gentleman from a potato factory. They are working off in the season, he told us, 6,000 tons of potatoes a day. And they do up to 150 different products from potatoes. Yeah? Starch is one of the simplest products they do from potatoes, but don't ask me how many different kinds of starches they produce. They have starches, they produce starches for glue, they produce starches for food additives. Yeah? They get out fibers of the potatoes, they get out proteins of the potatoes. It's unbelievable what you can get out of a simple potato. Have in mind, starches can react on low temperatures. You can have starches which are reacting on 60 degrees, 65 degrees when cooking, and you have starches which are reacting on higher temperatures over 80 degrees. Yeah? What is the task for your product? Yeah? Would you just have starch as a filler? Would you have the starch as a binder? Should the starch give structure to the product? So, according to this, you have to make your selection. Another thing, hydrocolloids are gums. Xanthan gum, guar gum, nutcus bean gum. These are from vegetable products. All of them are reacting mainly as thickeners, yeah? To keep maybe starches floating in the brine. Yeah? If you, for example, mix a brine, a simple water brine with xanthan gum, and you add starch in it, so then you can reach the effect that the starch is really bound in the solution and is not settling down on the bottom of your brine tank. What is then important to know? It changes viscosity of your brine. And then it's important to know and to watch if the brine stands still or if the brine is in movement. So how is the reaction of this ingredient in the brine? Because some of them, they react like a thickener. If you don't stir it, if you don't move, then the brine will be like yogurt, like pudding. Yeah? So, but as soon as you start stirring it, then it becomes liquid again. Yeah? So, these are related to the gums. Just watch this. Fibers, some of them are just fillers, some of them are having a certain functionality, even in the final product, to give them some structure, and there are so many fibers. Yeah? With different sizes, even particle sizes are very important if they should be used in the brine system, because if the particle size is too big, it will easily block your filter system on an injector, it will easily block needles. So you have fibers coming from pea, you have fibers coming from potato, I said already, you have bamboo fiber, you have wheat fiber, yeah, I don't know, citrus fiber, and all of them can have an influence on your product. And I tell you what, the guy who sells it, yeah, is mostly very clever, because he will tell you it will give an improvement of your product. You have to find out if it is or not. So what is important, I can tell you, for example, a pea fiber is a very simple fiber, mostly like a filler, has a certain nutrition value, can be used. Bamboo fiber, we have customers in Spain, they're using bamboo fiber on high injected values, 50% extension, 60% extension. The bamboo fiber has the effect to really to bind water and give the product a certain stability. Yeah. Another one is inulin. Maybe one or the other have heard about of it. Inulin comes actually from, if I'm not wrong, from celery. And inulin can be really good, can be used as a fat replacer. Yeah? So it helps actually to maintain some taste, to give the product some taste, so you can lower the fat content in the product. Yeah? Just as some general information. And then of course you have the proteins, and proteins, here I wrote animal proteins, but this is not all. Also we have vegetable proteins. What is very often used, it's a soy protein in meat formulation and brine formulation. Yeah? So you see this is quite a wide range, yeah? And if we go through it, so hydrocolloid actually comes from Greek, and from the word hydro means water and collar means glue, so let's say gluing water together. Yeah? So some of them are, you really can get soluble in water, and some of them are just dispersed in water. Yeah? So that's what I said before. Yeah? And in food processes they are quite unique, let's say, because there's no other group of ingredients which gives you so much, yeah, flexibility if you need something to improve viscosity, texture, or body of a product. Yeah? So there are quite many possibilities. So just a graph, yeah? You see you can have a thickener, so makes ketchup more, yeah, let's say, thick, and as I say, yeah. So if you have the ketchup and it stands in a bottle, yeah, you can take it with a spoon. But as soon as you start shaking the ketchup, then it becomes even more liquid, yeah. So some of them you have like gelling agents, which is current chain, yeah. Some of them are emulsifiers like Arabica, yeah. Some of them, yeah, just like coating to cover other ingredients. Yeah. Some of them to glue together something, and some of them are really used as fat replacers. Yeah. Very wide and very commonly used all over the world. And again, coming back to say, okay, let's try to have a clean label. Yes, but then you have to consider how much you would add to your product. Clean label works very often on lower injected products where you add lower amounts of brine. If you would go for higher injected products, definitely you will need something to bind the water and to give your product a certain structure. Yeah. Functionality we discussed already. Also, what I shortly mentioned, yeah, beside the currently used or the most effect giving the brine or a product, the structure, a viscosity, also some of them, yeah, they can provide some nutrition benefits. Yeah. For example, the pea fiber, yeah, or the inulin, what I mentioned, so come down with the fat content, yeah, adding nutrition value. Yeah. So it's also something what you could use. Yeah? So, and again, on one hand, we have this, to say, coming down with the number of ingredients. On the other hand, if you look to the books and what is supplied and what is offered, there are more ingredients, yeah, coming up with new hydrocolloids or with new possibilities to do even more. Yeah? So the last group we have here, the two things, ascorbate and ascorbic acid or erythrobate acid. Yeah. So ascorbic acid, this is actually the salt of ascorbate, and some call it simply vitamin C. Yeah. Why to mention it? Yeah. Ascorbic acid, yeah, immediately lowers the pH value. So this is somehow, it's a preservative and somehow it's a reddening agent. What is important to mention to you, to everybody who works with brine and brine components in combination with nitrate salt. Yeah? Don't use ascorbic acid in combination with nitrate salt, because if you use ascorbic acid and nitrate salt, the functionality of the nitrate salt will be gone immediately. If you have ascorbate and you use ascorbate as a buffer, as a reddening agent and as a preservative, this works in combination with the nitrate salt because it needs a longer time to be broken down in its segments. Yeah? And this is for extended tumbling styles. Yeah? You can even overcome it, but no one really will work without this. Yeah? So, ascorbic acid, don't put in a brine where you have nitrate salt in, because then it will be blown off. You will see a yellow dust coming out of the brine, and this means your nitrate is gone as soon as you start stirring it in. So the added proteins, what I said, yeah, there are also so many vegetable proteins, animal proteins, egg proteins, milk proteins. Yeah. So very often used is soy protein, but also here have in mind quality of the product you buy and how much you add, because adding too much, it will always end up with a negative flavor. To keep ingredients at starch, yeah, milk proteins, hydrolyzed in suspension during injection, we recommend following. Yeah. Here is called to eliminating the iced tea effect. Yeah. That means you should work with cold temperatures. But please know my saying, ice in a professional production for making brines is not a solution. Because with ice you never control the final temperature of your solution. And the final temperature should be always 34, 36 Fahrenheit or around 2 degrees, 0 to plus 2 degrees. Some of our customers, they work even with temperatures below minus, but if you are in the range below 0 and 2 degrees, you are doing a good job. If you use ice, then you have two problems to face. Number one is, what is the temperature of your tap water and how much ice you need today? Do you need 100 kilo a day? Do you need 80 kilos? Do you need 50 kilos or 150 kilos to come up with the requested temperature on the end? So the other thing you face if you use ice, ice has to be melted completely before you start injection. Because if the ice is not melted, then the density of the ingredients in the liquid is higher, because ice is solid water. So there is no salt in the part of the ice. That means the salt concentration at the beginning of the process will be higher in your injected product, and on the end of the process, the salt concentration will be lower, because then all the ice is melted. Have in mind, ice in professional way of production is not a solution. You should have something where you mix and cool your brine to repeat and to have constantly the same temperature every day for every product. Setting out in polymerization of proteins, it's also something what has to do something with temperatures. Yeah? Here it says go maybe a little bit higher, yeah? But be aware of it. Having a good protein extraction in the injected or massaged product, you should be on the temperature range again around 34 Fahrenheit or 2 plus 2 in Celsius. So to avoid foaming, filter system should not be full at full capacity. This is something one will see on during production. And very heavy brines brine solution may need additional agitation in the filter tank, yeah, to setting out and the formation of thick and rich layer. So to avoid actually setting down something on the ground of your brine tank. Yes, this might be necessary to have a steering unit or a pump system what keeps floating your brine to avoid setting down some of the ingredients in your brine tank. Because if starch is sitting on the bottom of your brine tank, it is sitting there, but it's not going into your product. Have in mind watching these things. So, what to avoid? No milk proteins should be added to starches because this, for example, does not work together. Yeah. Soy concentrates should be not used. Soy concentrates are very good if you do emulsion on a bowl shopper. This is something that works well. If you would use soy proteins, then you should have something like isolated soy proteins. Yeah. For high pump levels, yeah, it says 50, 60 or higher, you should use some protein, but again here, it depends on the overall mix of your functional ingredients. Yeah. In general, if we say higher pump products, you should have 60 grams of solids, that is called, in your solution, yeah, including salt. So, of course, you need something, as I said before. If you would go for high injection, maybe 70% or more, then you need something to make sure the brine is viscous enough. It's not just water if you pump it into your meat product. Otherwise, you pump it in and it will go out again without any effect. So, one thing, this is Kai mentioned earlier at the beginning. This is a special technology from Schröder, the HVB technology we call it, or some call it also meat-in-meat technology. Here we add really active meat protein to a solution, to a brine. And as you see on left-hand side, the cake, this is your meat, 100% of meat for injection. So if we use the meat-in-meat technology, we say, okay, from this cake we take a slice out, and this slice of muscle, yeah, of meat for injection, this will be replaced by meat trimmings, by fat, by skin, yeah. And this works on red meat as well as on poultry or fish. So the important thing is the slice we take out, yeah. We don't use the grinded meat to put into a tumbler. The grinded meat goes in a special emulsifier. And then it will be mixed with the brine. Yeah? So we use this type of trimmings, this kind, and it will be mixed in a brine, which turns out very viscous. And here, instead of using artificial proteins, yeah, instead of using lots of artificial ingredients, we are using pure meat technology. Because of the mix and the process of homogenizing of fine emulsion, it makes out of this material here, it makes a very viscous brine, and the brine contains active meat proteins. And this solution will be injected into meat products. And it could be a low injected product, and this is more and more even common on low injected and clean label products, because the active meat solution replaces really phosphate or other artificial ingredients. And we have done quite a lot on high injected products, yeah? And mainly for cooked products. Cooked ham could be a whole muscle product, could be a grinded product afterwards, yeah? It could be single muscles, could be molded, could be stuffed with industrial stuff. Many applications. And again, works on red meat as well as on any kind of poultry. and could be a non-phosphate beef product, could be fish, could be fresh meat product, could be chicken, low injected ham, high injected ham is even easier, or even where we have a beef fat mix, yeah, to inject into beef meat to get the beef marbling. The advantages of this technology, there's really some cost savings because the trimmings are cheaper than the meat parts. That's a fact. And the brine actually will stay, for the beginning we say normally it will stay the same, but sometimes we have even the possibility to reduce additives because we're using the meat functionality. Yeah? You will get a increased water binding, even PSE we can overcome. Yeah? Sliceability will be improved, less purge in the package, less drip. Yeah? And because if you add trimmings contain some collagen and fat, and this means you are really adding taste. Yeah? And this means there are quite a number of improvements by using this technology. Okay, oops. I think short break, maybe you would repeat something, Kai, or we just go ahead? Yeah, just maybe short.
他刚刚后面讲的这一段就是日本啊，或者德国比较常见的 mix and meet 的技术。那他刚刚有特别提到一点是说 mix and meet 的技术这一段在讲义上没有，因为这段是他后来加的，所以如果要拍照可以拍一下。就是 mix and meet 的技术，因为它加的都是天然的东西，例如说它是修下来的肥膘 trim， 或者是说它修下来的猪皮啊，然后或者是 fat 等等，然后它把它打进去的，所以它是可以符合所谓的 clean label， 就是它其实它里面 mix and meet 技术，以前大家都觉得很神秘，好像要加什么特殊的配方才可以进去，但其实在国外的话，它是符合 clean label， 它里面都是加天然的东西。OK， 那这边就是一些它的原物料啊，跟一些那什么相关的东西，他先把这些修下来的所谓的边角料，他拿去打成乳化酱。那当然这里面会依据我们要开的阐述啊等等的情况，所以我们有不同的比例。就是我们在打乳化酱的时候，我们可能修下来边角料，我不一定每天修下来边角料都是猪皮嘛，所以它是有个 range 范围，说大概是几%的猪皮搭配几%的肥膘，搭配几%的脂肪放下去，或者几%的碎肉。那它都是要打成完全乳化，因为要完全乳化之后才有它的流动性。我之前有去德国受训，他在做的时候，他有一个关键是说，他要把我们注射机的速度开到很慢。举例来讲，就像我们现在有一台跑车跟一台大卡车嘛，可能马达的 power 是一样的，但是我的大卡车我的扭力是比较大，我可以把比较重的东西去推动或去承重。那这个也是这个概念，就是这些肉啊、这些 skin 等等东西，它其实它已经乳化过，它用细切机 kata， 到我们第二部分会讲到，它其实用 kata 去乳化过之后，它其实它的流动性还是没有像我们所谓水溶性的腌制液来的那么好，所以它的注射机不是我们一般想说我们要打东西要打得多，我们要打得快，它其实是反而要打得慢，然后它东西才会留在里面。那像这个东西，因为 mix and meet 的东西，它又是天然的，然后它的结合性，它本来就是肉，所以它跟本来原料肉的结合性会比较好，所以它可以非常轻易的达成70%、90%、100%。所以它达成100%，就是说我现在有100公斤的牛肉，走进去之后出来变200公斤。那同时也因为这个牛肉，它现在含的脂肪比较多，所以它可能后续加工 sliceable 之后。做出来的牛排，它的口感比较好，它的价格还是上升的。好，那我现在让老外继续后面的部分。
So another important fact even sometimes underestimated our raw material. Yeah? So, which could be pork, which could be still working? Okay, good. Could be beef, chicken, or even fish. So, raw material could be bone-in, could be boneless, could be whole parts, could be even smaller parts, means just grinded product. What is important for your prime product? Yeah? Doesn't matter if we talk about whole muscle ham, reconstructed meat, just coating, marination outside of the product, or even something like chicken nuggets. Yeah? So the selection of the raw material is one of the important parts where you start with. This is like, as I said before, with the water, sometimes underestimated. I know a lot of meat to Asia is imported, and a lot of meat comes frozen. Yeah? So sometimes difficult to have a proper selection of the raw material, but please pay attention to it. So then dressing or cutting, very important, and yeah, for the imported and frozen meat, defrosting is a very, very important issue. And then, of course, which temperature you use for the different products. Starting with the last one. Yeah? So, what I said before, if we do a ham product, like on top left, so this type of ham product, I would massage with temperatures, with the aim to come down to 2 degrees. Why? Coming back again and talking again about meat technology, protein extraction, you can reach only with 3 major factors. So to have good protein extraction, you need number 1 functional ingredient, you need salt. If you have the combination of salt and phosphate, it will be even improved. But you need the functional ingredients, this is number 1. Number 2, to reach protein extraction on red meat, you need low temperatures around 2 degrees, at least below 4 degrees. Then you have the best protein extraction. And number 3 is mechanical action. Mechanical action, I will tell you something more later on in another part of presentation. What is important, why I mention this, this is done on 2 degrees. This is done on 8 degrees. So, why I'm telling you, you should go for 2 degrees, and this I do on 8 degrees, and I'm telling you. It is a question what you have in your raw material, what kind of raw material you have. This product contains quite a lot, not visible, but a lot of skin emulsion and fat. And skin emulsion and fat, if you go for too low temperatures, this will separate. To avoid the separation of a skin emulsion and fat in a product like this, you simply have to go on higher temperatures. The trick hereby is to do it maybe in a 2-step of process. If you have the meat particles like you see here, they have to absorb the majority of the water and the moisture. Yeah? So massaging your meat, pure meat, the lean meat, massaging first with the brine and ingredients you add. And then add the skin emulsion or fat emulsion, whatever you have, on a later stage. So start with low temperatures, with low brine, but let the temperature increase during the massaging tumbling process, and then add your skin emulsion later to end up with a final temperature of around 8 degrees. Just for information. Defrosting, very important. Often I see meat put in water. Sometimes the meat wrapped with the film in water, sometimes the pure meat in water. If you have the chance, then you should use something what is more professional. Putting the meat in water is just a fast method to get it done from today afternoon until tomorrow morning to make sure I have something for production. But this is not a professional way. Because you are losing color on the meat, you are washing out the surface, the myoglobin goes out. You are adding water, yeah? You are losing proteins, yeah? All in all, nothing what makes your product better. Professional defrosting means using defrosting chambers, using defrosting tumblers, yeah? Where you put in the meat to make sure you don't lose too much of moisture and you keep the color of the fresh meat. This is the important thing, and this is the message I can give you. Coming to the raw material and selection, yeah. So what you see on the picture here, destruction of cooked ham product. The reason is the first three letters. It's PSE meat. PSE stands for pale soft exudate. So, and sometimes you will have this, like you see here in these pictures. Yeah? So the meat is looking a little bit light in color, not really nice red color like pork meat should have. Yeah? It is a little bit soft, and sometimes you see it is even as a fresh meat losing easily water. So what is called RFN, this is reddish, firm and non-exudative. Yeah? So this is the standard meat, what you should choose. If you have something what is like on the right hand side of your picture, so DFD, this is quite nice or dark in color. This is high in pH level, yeah? While PSE is low in pH level. Yeah? But the disadvantage of the dark meat is because of the high pH level, shelf life will be reduced. Yeah? So it's not so good. So pH level, this is actually the value is addressed to cooked hams. So ideal is between 5.8 and 6.2. If you are lower 5.8, then the water binding, water retention, and the yield will be lower. I know nowadays we have very often just in Europe 5.6, and we have to live with it. And here again, some companies then they use some pH optimizer or increaser to come a little bit higher with the yield on the end. If you have it over 6.2, again, this is risky because of the bacteria growth, so this will end up with a shorter shelf life. So, using meat for cooked ham products. One thing is to use a warp technology. So warp technology means really to get meat for cooked ham products within 6 hours after killing an animal. Very seldom this will work. Most common is the cold meat technology, and this is important to know. pH level decreases and goes down on the pork meat within the first 24 hours to the lowest stage. And after the 24 hours, it is slowly rising again to a higher level. And the common saying is, using meat for any cooked product, doesn't matter if it is just a simple pork loin or something what should be for quality ham product, using meat from the third day after slaughtering, because then the pH level is on the curve and going up again. So then you have the best selection without making big efforts. Defrosted meat, as I said, professional defrosting is required for injection. It is very important to make sure even the core part of a meat piece has to be above 0 degrees. Don't say 0 is enough, it should be on 1 degree. Because if it is 0 and you start injecting, it is too cold. You don't get the distribution of the liquid, you don't get the right distribution of the ingredients, and it will end up in discoloration of your final product. Make sure defrosted meat is totally above 0 degrees. Okay, so and when grinding meat and for reconstructed products, I have seen this quite very often. People grind meat and yes, okay, some parts of the meat, if you check on the surface of a big combo, you are already on 4 degrees, but in the core still minus something. So if this is really the fact, then you could go and use a warmer brine in your massager or tumbler to make sure your meat gets the right temperature within the required massaging time. If I say warm brine, that means you could maybe use a brine instead of 2 degrees, a brine with 8 or 9 degrees to add to your minced and grinded product. Technologies and fields of application. We have been talking so far about injection and massaging. So, and this is what we are using to bring the marinade or brine to our product. Injection, whole birds, whole ham, parts, So that means via a needle system of an injector, we are taking the brine into a muscle to distribute all the ingredients as much as possible all over the part which is processed. Massaging means adding meat into a tumbler, into a massager, mixer, and using the rotating process effect of the drum, or in our case of the panel system, to force the liquid to be absorbed by the meat. Difficult for the big meat parts. Here you should use an injection in combination with the massaging process. If it is a grinded product, then you just can add the brine and start the massaging process to reach the requested absorption of the liquid. So, injection you can use for fresh or further processed product, for red meat, for poultry, for fish. Combination, mainly for fresh and for further processed products, for ham products, for fresh and frozen products. And marination, as I said, mainly for the reconstructed meat products. Could be also a fresh marinated product, like a chicken legs, chicken wings, chicken breast, or a whole muscle ham grinded products. Important facts mentioned, for a good technology, marination technology, it starts again with the raw material selection, brine formulation, we had at the beginning, the functional ingredients, brine preparation. I gave you this little hint, ice, it's not really a solution with preparing brine. Injection, make sure you have an injector with the right stitch pattern and an injector where allows you hygienic sanitation and a very even brine distribution, and a massager where you have within a short while the best possible protein activation. Why I mentioned this? So what you see on the picture left, this is a typical Italian ham. It's actually a low injected product. But because of the low injection, so it needs quite an effective massaging process. So if you under massage, if the tumbling process is not effective enough, then you don't get a stable slice to get the thin slices. So that means it ends up in breaking the fibers and breaking the muscles, because the slice simply is not stable enough. Sanitation, what you see here, one hand is a discoloration, on the other hand there are a couple of holes to see in the product. Both is related to a pure sanitation of the system. So all pipes which cannot be cleaned, doesn't matter if it is an injector or it is a brine mixing system. So if the pipe system cannot be properly cleaned, if you cannot do really an inspection of your system, then it will end up in something like this. Sanitation is very often underestimated on an injection process. And because of long tumbling times, having products sitting in a cold store for a time, then you allow really bacteria to grow. Everybody of you are from the food business, so you know, every 20 minutes under best conditions, bacteria will be doubled. But ends up like this. Pure brine distribution is one thing here. Another thing is, the product maybe went too fast to the cooking chamber. Number one is selecting the right formulation, maybe even the reddening agent is not the best, but the main thing, the brine distribution has been not as good as it could be. So, injected products is one of the groups we do. We have reconstructed products, yeah. As you see, the typical product, what I mentioned, with the temperature. This is, for example, a Chinese product, again a Chinese product, so could be for something for sliceable, could be single sausage, could be partly bigger parts. Semi or cooked products, yeah, injected raw products, which are just treated in the smokehouse, yeah, not fully cooked. Marination could be also something you do just on the outside of your products. And the typical products here are chicken wings, chicken drumsticks, yeah, which are sold for barbecue or even steaks, steak products. Doesn't matter if it is lamb chop or if it is something from a beef or pork. Marination, you see, fresh meat, salt. Or we have another where we have just the meat in meat injection or fat injection to get a meat marbling. Fish as well. Salmon is one of the classical products, or even tuna, which we are injecting. So, process check, very important. And then, of course, the equipment to overcome such features. So now I know we are close on the time to come to the end. Anyway, I will go fast through to let you know what makes the difference, to show you something about the equipment. Here we have the brine mixing system, which offers a professional mixing system just by rotary pump. Or we have even the improved system where we have for high viscous brines, for very sticky additives, we are using what we call a shear pump, this unit here. So, and the shear pump is working like a little homogenizer to be even faster with the mixing process and make a brine very homogeneous. And the important fact, to have a repeatable process, cooling. Make sure after mixing, where you have a process time, which is stored in the process parameter in the recipe, so you have also a cooling system, and could be a heat exchanger, a plate heat exchanger, or pipe heat exchanger, which is the more hygienical solution for more sticky brines. The important thing here is to use the cooling and to make sure your brine is always and every day on the same temperature for the process. Industrial injectors. So, complete process lines with loading, injecting, tenderizing, or single machines. The important thing is you have a system which delivers a constant brine flow, which has the possibility to avoid needle breaking if a needle hits a bone, and who stops spraying. Who stops spraying if a needle hits a ball? You see here, the needle is in the position to spray, brine flows in. Here the needle is in, we call it retraction. Yeah. The needle hits a bone, and then there's a little pneumatic controlled piston, so the needle pushes the piston back, and the brine flow will be stopped. Important is the distribution, the manifold number of needles, to make sure you reach a very even distribution of brine all over the product. Sanitation, as I mentioned, make it easy as possible to get the needles and the pipes clean. Dismantling, as you see here, the retraction block is outside, easy to take off the needles for cleaning. Stitch pattern, very important. As you see, there is a variation of different stitch pattern, and it shows a different density. Sometimes I have had customers, they think, okay, I would go for higher injection. Please quote me your injector with the highest number of needles. This is the wrong thinking. If you would have a higher injection rate, you need more space around the single needle to allow the lead to take the brine. If you would go for lower injection rate, then you should have a more dense stitch pattern to make sure with the possible low injection pressure, like for fish, you have on every place the same amount and at the same time the requested ingredients. So, low injection, more needles, high injection, less needles. Tenderizer systems. As you see, I said at the beginning, mechanical treatment. You have the possibility to choose between a roller tenderizer, so you have a rotating disc to make really cuts in the outside of the product. You have the possibility to get something we call it a lead press, just to break the muscles partly to get brine more distributed, or a needle tenderizer. The needle goes completely through a muscle, yeah, to make it more tender, and all of them are created to absorb the brine, to speed up the curing process and to reduce the massaging or tumbling process. And you see the different results. So you can have smaller cuts or deeper cuts, breaking the muscles, and needle tenderizer. Massaging. I mentioned very often the word massaging. So we don't produce tumblers, our systems are massagers. And you see the paddle system here. And this is the main difference. So the shoulder massager does not rotate the drum. We are moving the paddles, and the paddles are moving the meat. The result, yeah, you see the paddles in here, depending on the size of the drum. The result will be a much shorter process time. So we are saving, compared to tumblers, 50% of the process time or more. And it results in very uniform and this effective massaging result. So leads actually, coming back to meat technology, to better active myosin activation, because I said before, you need 3 facts to get protein activation. Salt and phosphate to improve the ionic strength. Low temperatures on 2 degrees. And you need a mechanical action. And the mechanical action is given by our massager. That means it transfers really energy to the finest fibers. Yeah? And the finest fibers, these are here, so-called set discs, and here is where we have the actin and myosin proteins. And only if you reach this, then you will have good water binding. It is not important what is on the outside of a piece of meat. Protein activation has to be inside, in the finest fiber of a meat. Only then you will have a good water binding and you will have a good result on cooking and slicing and no purge in your package on the end. Yeah. Tumblers are mainly having some protein activation on the surface. It is like a film of paste very often on the surface. We don't have this in this way. We are more on the deep muscles inside protein activation. So important is controlling time, speed, vacuum, temperature, and you load up to 85% in the Schroeder massager instead of having 50% in the tumbler. Here it's again a comparison, yeah. So a tumbler with a rotating drum, a massager with the pedals, and mixers or blenders with the screws or small pedals. Even a mixer or blender does not give you the same result as the Schroeder massager. It has something to do with the construction of the drum, has something to do with the construction of the pedals. Yeah. Here we are more or less on the end. Improved yield, improved slicing, improved cooking, that's where we go for. Yeah. Just some examples, yeah, of massaging time. And if you look, a whole pork shoulder muscle, 1 to 2 hours, pork top side, 2 to 3 hours, yeah, silver side, up to 4 hours, 4.5 hours. These are times, yeah, I guess no one is doing this in this way with a tumbler. The important thing is the intensive protein activation, low protein on the surface, yeah, increased water retention, tenderness and stability for slicing. Okay, here it follows some product or production line examples to show you. So we do it in different ways, always depending on the needs of the customer. Could be a line with just 2 or 3 massagers, could be a line with up to 8 or more massagers for different applications. And the interesting thing is, with a massager system like this, you do whole muscle products, you do reconstructed products, means from grinded meat, you do chicken products, you do red meat, you do a low injected and you do a high injected product. Yeah. The important thing is, it's my expression always, one has to know how to play the piano. Chicken line, yeah, marination technology, and the last words, we say at the beginning, coming back, yes, we are offering a so-called data management system which connects Schroeder machines to each other and connect the Schroeder machines to a desktop computer for traceability, to recording all information about the process, like temperatures, like speed on an injector, vacuum on a massager, temperatures in the brine making system. All this information will be collected and will be stored on a hard disk. And one can even sit on the computer writing the recipes, the production parameters, sending it to the machines and avoiding that the operator changes the recipe. The operator can on the machine only use the recipe and the parameters are given. He cannot change it. He chooses for different products the recipe name and he runs it, and he cannot change it. So we're taking away some responsibility from the operator, and on the other hand, you're doing something to make sure your production goes in a way like it should be. So, sorry, I did more and I did longer than I expected. I hope you could take what you expected and you got the messages and information you expected for today. I'm here later on if you have questions. I will be also for the next 2 days until Thursday evening on the exhibition. I would be glad to see one or the other coming asking questions. I would be glad to answer your questions. And now I may stop, maybe short break. Kai, you say it. Thank you very much for your attention. And hope to see you soon.